Okay, you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Why are you laughing so much?
Because I'm high as shit.
Oh, you know what it is? Because you had the alcohol and the cookie.
I told you.
You know what that's called? CrossFit.
I have faded. I'm fading.
Okay, all right. Shh, be quiet. Here we go. This is Brunch, Blaze, and Babble,
Where we eat, elevate, and talk about
media trends from the past,
the present,
and the future.
from a Black perspective.
I'm your host, Roger Turner.
And I'm your host, Alexis Bertrand.
So sit back
Spark up
and let's get into it. Hey, Alexis.
Hey, Roger, baby, goddammit.
I already know how you do it. You
already know.
I know how you do it. I feel the same. I feel the same.
Woo,
Yes. It is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul. Do you hear me?
It is well.
Who on today's day?
How was your brunch?
My brunch was great. Y'all, brunches, we hit up our spot today.
Juniors?
We hit up Juniors today. It was great. I had me some pancakes, some real pancakes. The last place we went to, it didn't really hit, but it was still fun. So I had me some pancakes, some eggs, bacon, kept it moving. It was nice.
Mm-hmm. And you wanted those grits, but they didn't.
I know. We got there too late for the grits.
Got there too late. They was like, she said it so fast. She was like, I want to have the grits. She's like, we don't.
I was like, oh, damn it. I forgot. It's all good, though. Still love you, Junior. Still love you. How was your brunch, boo?
My brunch was really good. I wanted the lunch menu.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do. And I wasn't sure that fish and chips was going to be good. But
Yeah, I didn't ask you why we eating.
It was actually pretty good.
Okay.
It was well-seasoned fish.
Oh, no, Lord. Ain't nothing like a good old piece of well-seasoned.
That little homemade tartar sauce was delicious.
Okay, come on, homemade tartar sauce.
It was very good, very
I like
good.
a good homemade. Okay.
Baby,
don't ask this question.
Yeah, I'm going to ask it because inquiring minds want to know.
What do they want to know?
How high are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Baby, I am at the goddamn roof. So I am like a 9 easy, and we are just on our way.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was good because I had, a little edible before brunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an edible after lunch
Mm-hmm.
with a little cocktail, y'all. But y'all, if y'all know me, y'all know I don't really drink. So I had me a little cocktail and a gummy afterwards. So I'm at a 9.
We had frozes.
Okay.
Frozes.
Okay, but it still had liquor in it.
We had a froze, but it was delicious.
It was really good.
It was delicious, and there was more than wine in there.
Right.
There was definitely
some spirits.
something else.
It was the spirit.
There was another spirit in there. I was getting hints of vodka. There was something else in there.
So we are a little mess, y'all, today.
Yeah. So we're very, very high.
No, wait a minute. I asked you, how high are you?
Oh, I'm at a 9.37. I am so very high. I am high, and it's climbing.
Oh, Lord.
It is climbing up the wall.
It is climbing up the wall. Okay, so we gonna try and keep our heads on.
I literally almost ate this mic just now.
I'm finished.
I almost ate it.
Okay. Before we start eating studio equipment.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's tell the people.
What we talking about?
What we talking about today? Okay, so you know what? What's interesting about today's topic is that we should have done this one a long time ago. The title of our podcast is Brunch, Blaze, and Babble.
Emphasize the brunch part.
Emphasize the brunch part. So we've never done a show talking about cooking shows. Can y'all believe that? Out of all the great
two foodies.
we be eating, okay?
Okay.
We be eating.
We be eating. Not watermelon. It's gross.
Okay. We don't have that conversation no more. Okay, so we're talking about cooking shows today. And the one little backstory I want to give you is like Roger and I were having a conversation around just comfort. But part of that conversation around comfort and comfort media, we started talking about cooking shows and how much we find joy, comfort, and all types of things in those shows. Now, the way we're spinning this, though, is because all cooking shows are not created equal.
No,
okay?
no.
Think of the metaphor for those of y'all who grew up in black church like we did, right? Every now and again, the church would have a potluck in the afternoon, and everybody bring their own specialized dish.
What is the thing that you ask on Thanksgiving?
But
What's
what
the question?
is the thing you ask? And the thing you ask about who, depending on the dishes you would ask, is
Who made the potato salad?
Because you can't trust everybody.
You want to know.
You want to know. You can't trust
And you
everybody's
need to know
potato
before
salad.
you take a spoonful. You're not tasting not one drop. No,
And you will not be dismayed.
don't serve it.
So this episode is about more of like a curated list. We have some favorite go-tos and some shows that we actually discovered because you can't trust all the cooking shows. Okay? So this episode is entitled, Who Made the Potato Salad?
Okay.
Okay.
We're adding a new segment to the show that involves you. That's right, you right there, with a mouthful of food that is about to take another bite. Slow down and chew. It's better for your digestion. I'm just playing. I can't see you eating. But I am serious about including you in our new segment. Our new segment entitled, Help, I Can't Find Anything to Watch. Alexis and I are TV addicts and culture critics. We watch it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We watch it all so you don't have to. So if you're looking for some viewing suggestions without having to sift through all the trash, we're here to help. First, go to the show notes and click the link that says send us a text. That link will allow you to send a text directly from your phone to us. Next, write us a text. Start with the segment name, Help, I Can't Find Anything to Watch. Well, maybe don't type the screen, use an emoji or something. I don't know. Whatever. Next, you're going to write your name, your pronouns, a brief description of you and your TV taste, and finally, the last 3 things that you enjoyed watching. Once you send us all that, we will probably read your message and give you your viewing suggestion on the show. That's right. You'll hear your name. We'll talk back to you right here on the show. But that's all the news that I have for you today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening. Thank you for putting that together.
I had to put it together, y'all.
See, you were worried about being high. You did a great job.
Yeah, no,
that was a wonderful
job.
job.
I'm about to fall apart.
You ain't. I think it's time for us to pull back the curtain.
Come on, pull us back, Roger. What you got?
All righty. All right. So, when do you think the first cooking shows first came on the air? What do you think is the first cooking show?
Okay. I'm going to go 80s.
80s? Wow. I would have said maybe like the 50s or the 60s.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm thinking about Julia Child.
Wait a minute. She been doing cooking shows since the 50s?
Julia Child been on here a long time.
Oh, shit. I thought she started out in the 80s.
Julia Child been out here.
Child, no.
The first cooking show wasn't on television. It was originally on radio.
Well,
so
that makes sense.
Mostly of the cooking shows in the 1940s were performed on the radio. There are a bunch of different ones. But one of the most popular cooking shows that was on the radio, it premiered in 1924, and it was the Betty Crocker Cooking School of the Air.
Wait a minute. Oh, I love the Betty Crocker
Cooking School
of the Air. Work, bitch.
Not on the airways, of the air, honey.
I'm here for, come on, Miss Crocker.
Okay. Who was that queer that came up with that brand name?
You know it was a gay man.
Did you know that Betty Crocker is not a real person?
What you talking about?
Betty Crocker.
Why are you disturbing my whole childhood right
Betty
now?
Betty Crocker was a fictional character that they made up.
I'm about to walk out
for
the studio.
The radio show, voiced by an actress by the name of Agnes White Tizard.
But if you Tizard.
Tizard. T-I-Z-A-R-D.
Come on, French. I think it's French. Y'all know it. Okay, so she voiced Betty Crocker.
She voiced Betty Crocker, and Betty Crocker is not real. In fact, it was because of the popularity of the show we get Betty Crocker today.
Oh, wow. Okay, I did not know that.
So, in the United States in the 1940s, Sunday Evening Supper was produced by Edward Padula in 1940. And then that show went on, and then maybe from 1946 to 1947, there was a second show that became like super popular. It was called The French Chef. From 1946 to 1947, it was hosted by none other than James Beard, who we now know the James Beard Award, which is the standard of that, and Michelin stars are like the standard prizes for restaurants. Oh, no, I'm sorry. His show was called Love to Eat. The French Chef came out in 1963, and that was Julia Child. Now, you know what Julia Child did
so
for
first
cooking.
James Beard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then What You Like to Eat. It was called What You Like to Eat?
Love to Eat.
Love to Eat.
With James Beard.
And then
it was French Cook. The French Chef. With Julia Child.
Julia Child.
In 1963.
Come on.
And then that sparked her cooking book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And then 1973, The Frugal Gourmet was hosted by Jeff Smith. And that became like a big thing. So those were the big shows. There weren't a lot of cooking shows, but those were the big, long-running cooking shows that everybody remembers, that everyone learned cooking. Because there was we're thinking about like industrialization, canning, processed food is just becoming on the rise.
I see.
So there's this big fight against the popularity of canned and processed food, because at that time, that's what most Americans were eating at home. Most Americans were eating meals that were pulled out of a can and a box, a combination of those
weren't all
things.
eating duck confetti.
No, nobody was eating that until
No
Julia
duck
Child.
confetti?
Right. If
It's
you got
not confetti, y'all. I'm messing with you. Please don't
if
do
you
that.
got it was very rare you got a from scratch like meal, unless you learned from
like your
family
members
from family members.
Oh, okay.
But if for some reason you didn't learn that or didn't know how to cook, or you did learn that and you weren't good at it,
right,
people turned to these things. So these shows became really popular because it was literally the only place you could really without having to go to cooking school, learn about cooking.
How to cook? Yeah, okay.
So they became really popular, and they were very rare until 1993 when the Food Network premiered.
So, okay, right. Yeah, I remember that. They weren't.
1993 was the first time there was an entire network dedicated to food. Because only food entertainers you saw at that point. There weren't a lot of cooking shows. There were just a bunch of people cooking on different like morning talk shows.
That's right.
So all of those things were happening. And then we now know of food show dynamic from Food Network.
Okay.
We have the variety of different types of food cooking shows solely because of Food Network.
Okay. I love that part right there. So you said, that point right there. We have a variety now of cooking shows because the Food Network launched, and it launched with a variety. So for me and other people listening, when you say variety of cooking shows, what exactly are you?
So I want to talk about, before I jump to that, I want to go back and talk about James Beard real quick.
Yeah.
I was reading his bio and I was like, he's family? I didn't know James Beard was queer.
What in the sin? What you talking about?
Yeah, he died in 1985. He didn't come out of the closet until like 1981. In one of his memoirs, he was like, I guess it's time to talk about this.
So I guess it can be said that James Beard's milkshake really did bring the boys to the yard. Okay.
I see what you did there.
You thought I did that. I ain't mad at you. I see you,
there.
James. You know, it's interesting. If I could, I want to shout out two of my friends. I know who they listen, like Chris and Aaron. There happened to be a same-sex couple who I know one of them does a lot of work with the James Beard Foundation, particularly trying to make sure that the nominees for all of the categories feel a lot more inclusive, not only of particularly of BIPOC chefs and also queer and BIPOC chefs. I know that's part of their work. So it's nice to hear like this foundation that they are a part of began by someone who also has families.
So food culture in America, like television food culture in America, actually comes from a woman and a queer man.
Hello, somebody. The queers and the women been out here trying to save y'all. Y'all ain't trying to hear us. Y'all ain't trying to hear us.
I was talking about the variety of different shows.
Yes.
So because of Food Network, we have like three general formats for the cooking show that people watch. The first format is the at the kitchen counter. You are sitting with me as I make this recipe step by step, and we're having conversation. You're in the kitchen with me format. The one-on-one cooking show, or the two-on-one. Like
it's a more intimate setting. It's like you're in this. You're in the experience.
It's about talking to you're in the experience where in community together cooking.
Okay.
So, and that was like the beginning of food cooking shows. That's what we had, especially with like James Beard and Julia Child.
Gotcha.
But the Food Network expanded that format. So from after that, you started to have the food competition show. It's the best of the best format, okay?
I like that.
And then finally, it's the food documentary. So
Okay.
documentaries are what cookbooks
Like
literally are.
living-
It's a living cookbook.
Oh, wow.
Because you're getting
Or a visual
recipes,
cookbook,
but you're getting
yeah.
the history and the understanding. There's a whole conversation in the book,
I
a good
see.
cookbook about
see.
the meal and where it comes from and
Yeah.
helping inform how you prepare the thing.
Yeah. I think the distinction I make between food competition and maybe food documentary is that more often than not in the documentary, the food is always the central character.
Central character, yeah.
Where I feel like maybe sometimes in the competition, it's more about the actual chef, which is not bad because it's nice to highlight the personality and the artistry of who's making the art, if you will, or in this case, the food. But I feel like the chefs get a little bit more spotlight in the competition shows, as they should, versus the documentary. And I say this because I'm thinking about our brunchers who might be broadening, like trying to find their place and like, well, what kind of cooking shows would I like? If you want the story more centered on the food, I might suggest a documentary. If you want something more centralized on the characters who are creating the food, then maybe a competition show. Or the first one you said. Because maybe the first one was At the Kitchen Counter. Maybe there's a balance there. Maybe that's the one that strikes the balance where you get a bit of the...
Which one do you think is the one that you prefer?
That's a great question. I think from my list, I really like the documentaries. Ooh. I feel like the documentary one most.
Right.
I feel like I grew up, maybe this is generational because I feel like, to your point, I feel like I grew up with a lot of the At the Kitchen Counter, and I just feel satiated with that. Like I just wanted a different kind of visual experience. If I can see where these spices came from that you are using in this dish,
right.
that hits a little different for me. What about you? Do you have a favorite?
So for me, I think I love them all. Like the kitchen counter is my least favorite because it's not as exciting to me. Like the kitchen counter was home. Like I learned how to cook at a very early age.
Right.
Because it's more about making the meal accessible to the audience. The complexity of the meals are not that complex, and I can cook, so I don't need a simple recipe.
I get you.
So I'm bored. I was like, oh yeah, I know how to make. Why am I watching you make fried chicken? I do fried chicken better than that. I'm not watching you do this. I like the competition and the documentary because I like to learn something new, like add to my skill. I love watching a chef do a technique in a competition show that I've never seen done before.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go try that.
That's true.
And then learning about where like food comes from. I love the documentary.
I feel like there's a comfort at the kitchen counter versions that's like, because there's an intensity with the competition ones. There's a very specific lens that the documentary carries, like you're on this journey.
Right.
And I think if you were just looking for something that brought a little bit more comfort and intimacy, if that makes sense.
You want it to be, sometimes the tension of the competition might be too much. But if you just want to like
see somebody cook something
you want
nice.
it, you want it to be your Bob Ross. You want it to like
you wanted your Bob Ross.
You want it to be your Bob Ross. If you don't know Bob Ross and the art of painting, go look it up. Go Google it.
He's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
He's still a vibe. Oh my God. Any other tidbits, or did that flesh it out for us for our pull back the curtain? Because I feel like I learned something. I was not coming into this conversation.
So listen,
you always teaching me something.
Listen, brunchers, send us a text and tell us like what your favorite cooking show is, and like what do you think your favorite genre of cooking show. So I think we wanted to tell each other our top five.
Let's get into this because y'all know how we do when we do our top five. We'll start from 5 and go to 1. But Roger and I are very careful. I think we've gotten good at this. We're very careful to.
We don't tell. They know that. They know we don't tell.
We don't
each
disclaim.
other.
So we didn't disclaim this either. And I wanted to also point out that this is, I wouldn't call it a blind spot for us, but like I said earlier in the conversation, we just hadn't talked about this. So this is actually going to be a place of discovery. And so we'll do our top 5. And then I know that Roger, just being the immaculate connoisseur that he is, he has some great honorable mentions for us. So y'all should see me. I got my pen and paper because I always follow Roger's suggestions, and we're gonna get to it in this conversation. He gave me one episode to watch, and I cried damn near through the whole thing. It was literally an Oprah moment. It was bad. It was just snot nose, everything. My partner came running out the room. Are you okay? I'm watching the cooking
and then
show.
looked up, was like, isn't this a cooking show?
It's just a cooking show. So anyway, all right. So let's get into it. Our top 5 across all of the cooking show types that Roger mentioned. So we're not going by each genre. We're just going period.
Yeah.
So we'll start with our 5th one. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah. So my 5th favorite show is called Outchefed. Outchefed. On Hulu.
Ooh.
It is hosted by Chef Eddie Jackson. They take a amateur cook and tell them that they're going to audition for a cooking show. But what really happens is that they're in a competition against a Food Network professional chef.
This is insane.
And they have to, if they beat the professional chef, they win $5,000.
Yes.
And so it sounds like impossible, right? But really, they just get 6 people off the street and they judge the 2 meals. And the amateur chef has to only get 1 vote out of 6 in order to win.
Wow. This was on my list to watch. This sounds really fun.
And Eddie Jackson, dark-skinned brother, he's such a good host. He's so funny. He's so funny. He's so smart. He handles all different types of people so well with such respect.
Oh, I love this.
He's such a good host. So my number 5 was Outchefed, hosted by Eddie Jackson on Hulu.
On Hulu. I love that. Okay, so you already know where my top 5 is. Y'all know I love a good reality TV show.
Ooh, what's this?
So this one is it's very well known. I'm going to go with Bravo's Top Chef.
Ooh, yeah.
I love Bravo's Top Chef. I always have. I thought it's like the glamour of it all. Like if I think about the Real Housewives, it comes with a sense of they gather all these chefs, working chefs from all the varying degrees of success from around the world, and they put them into this competition show. It is high stakes, it is high stress, but there's a glamour to it that I like. There's an opulence to it, and you really get to see not only the influence of the chefs, but what they've been influenced by, and they'll put really interesting, I don't want to say materials, but different food sources together to see what they could come up with. It's really, really playful. I love it because it is just that. And it's been one of the longest running ones.
Yeah, I forgot it's Bravo. I just assumed that it was Food Network, but it is Bravo.
No, right? So I've also had the fortunate pleasure and privilege of living in the city where many of these chefs who are on this show, I've had dinner with them. I have friends who've had dinner with them.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And I haven't met one, including Samuelson.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's humble.
Red Rooster.
Yes, and they're so, and there's another one, it'll come to me, his seafood spot that I love a lot, Havimar. I've met all of these, and they're completely humble. Their work ethic is insane, y'all. And I have
to be successful in the food industry.
I have the utmost respect for them. So my 5th place spot is going to go to Top Chef.
So
number 4.
My number 4, a show on Max.
I'm squinting. I'm thinking.
Hosted by Chef Khalees. Yes, Milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
I knew you was going to bring this one in here.
It is on Max. I believe you can also see it on Netflix now.
Yep.
Cooked with Cannabis.
It's a dope show. You see what I did there?
I am a cannabis cook. I have
yes, you
been
are
a cannabis cook for about 4 years now. I love that show. It was the first time I got to see quality competition cooking with cannabis.
It's also the first time I think we got to see Khalees in a very different light. I've always loved her as an artist. It was great to see her in this space and just how much food really is a love language and for her to her community.
I loved it. Ever since watching Khalees be in the food industry. She has a at the kitchen counter style cooking show that she did for a while, and it's not my favorite format.
No.
But the most refreshing thing about this show is just seeing a Black woman happy. She's so
agreed
happy being she is a real chef. She's so happy, so
good
passionate.
Space for her.
I love watching the space and seeing her in
grow.
this space. I love watching Black women be happy.
Yeah, but the cooking with cannabis makes it it takes it up an element because it's not like I'm just going to make this dish and I'm going to throw some weed on it.
You want to make sure you're dosing the food correctly, also balancing the flavor and making the experience of the food good all at the same time.
In this competitive setting, which I think is so interesting. And it just shows you the level of expertise that these culinary artists have to have. Oh, there's math and science and physics and chemistry all through this stuff. And I love it.
And I just love that we're bringing it to the format now that it's becoming legal in more states, that someone can now see how you can properly infuse, or make an edible. Emphasis
on properly. So quickly, my number 4 is it's another go-to. I'll get all my go-tos out the way because I really have some other ones I want to talk to. But like my second go-to besides Top Chef is the British Bake Off.
I knew you were going to say this, which is why I did not put it on my list.
I had to. I love this show, and I'll say it very quickly. For the same reasons I love Top Chef, it is still, first of all, I love desserts. We are foodies, and I love things that are sweet. And for the longest time, I personally thought, like, how varied is this? How varied? But when you think about desserts or what people find as, or what people will call desserts, regionally, it is so different. It is so vast. And even though this is a British baking show, they do invite talent from across the world to really come participate in this show. So I love the showcase of of food from across the region, from Mozambique all the way to like Denmark, across from Senegal to like
just
Southeast
like
Asia.
you have all of these, cooking styles from around the world. I think it's really the first time I really saw British style cooking. I think most of American television on cooking is the French cuisine. And not what English cuisine is. And I think I learned what English cuisine is through a show. Well, part of what English cuisine is through a show like the British Bake Off.
Yeah, like it's if you really get into like just learning about subculture that way, right? So it's a British show hosting all of this world class talent through dessert.
Because all of their dishes are basically British themed.
They are, and it's the chef's take on it,
right,
or their spin on it. And like I love how sometimes the chefs will be like, "I never thought about it that way,"
right,
or "This is great." And sometimes it goes off the rail. I bring this one up because this one is near and dear to my heart because my students at the time, they were 6th graders, and we were all in. It was during the pandemic, and this is when they just allowed us to go back to school. And so we couldn't be in the same room together eating lunch. So what we did was we had this huge room. We separated all the desks, and we should watch something. And one little kid said, I watched the British Bake Off with my mom. And we started it, and we watched 2 seasons for the entire year. And that became our thing. Like every lunch, we would watch a new episode.
And those kids were in.
We were into it. We were trying to predict the winners. It was great. And it also, the biggest thing I will say is, in terms of just understanding and celebrating points of diversity, it got us all talking.
Yeah.
In a very organic, authentic
and
way.
how
It was beautiful.
human beings should treat each other.
Exactly.
In a competition. Like, they're not Americanized with the idea of competition. If you're done and you have plenty of time, you'll go ask the person that you're competing with, okay, what do you need help with? My hands are free. What do you need help with? Because everyone wanted everyone to finish. Like,
because all the best dishes, it all helps us. It gets us more screen time. It gets us more viewership. If you win, I win technically.
Right. And it's just like, it was just good natured. Like, I know I'm competing against you, but we spent this time together and we're also friends. I'm not going to let you not submit a dish.
That's actually true.
What do you need?
There's not really no sabotage on this show.
No.
So the competition of it does really stay pretty
And they're all
wholesome.
rooting for each other.
I never thought about it that way.
They compete each other, but at all times during this show, they're all rooting for each other.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's the competition you like to see.
You never see somebody happy because their cake fell.
No. And you see the other contestants like hurt for them.
And they're like comforting them. It's okay. You did your best.
You did your best.
You're going to be a fine.
You're going home, mama. But it's okay.
I'm sure it was delicious.
Right?
You know what?
Exactly.
Make sure they're there. It's such a heartwarming thing to watch. Like, I describe the British Bake Off as like a cozy blanket on the back of the couch that you pull over every once in a while. It's that, like,
I love that.
Lovely. That's how I feel about British Bake Off. So my number 3 is a little show that I found, and I saw the first episode and was immediately hooked. And I was like, oh, first of all, this fine-ass black man is the host, Chef Eric Ejapong. Chef Eric Ejapong is beautiful.
Period.
Okay, that is a beautiful chocolate black man.
Whew,
he's on, and he's like, I called together a couple of my favorite friends
to
play a little game I like to call Wild Card Kitchen.
Yes.
Yo. Wild Card Kitchen is that girl.
It really is.
It is on Hulu. It's produced by Food Network. They raid the Food Network test kitchen at night, and they have a game of Wild Card Kitchen where they have food-style poker cards. And
this is really fun.
And 3 chefs bring like $2,000, $3,000 of their own money to put on the line to play a game of poker through cooking. They all get like an ingredient card and a dish card. So they have a dish card is what they pull first. The dish is like diner food. And then they have an ingredient card. Every dish must have that ingredient. So you could have diner food and then your card is pimentos.
Gotcha. Yeah,
so
exactly.
You have to incorporate pimentos into your
dish.
And then they all get a wild card, which dictate another wild thing they have to do that's exclusive to only them. Like, you have to use a rice cooker. You need to wait 5 minutes before everyone starts. Or you can force another ingredient on a contestant.
Or another player. Yeah.
And based on those 3 cards, you bet, are you going to call? Are you going to double? Are you going to
raise or something?
Are you going to raise? And then you do this hand, and then you go cook, and the winning dish wins the hand, wins the pot.
It's such a great idea.
It's such a great idea, and I feel like it is Eric at Japong's idea.
It might be. I don't know who came up with this.
It feels like it's his idea. Like, this is how he's played poker, or this is how chefs play poker.
Yeah. I love that extra game element inside of it.
Right.
Like, we've mentioned now 2 competitive food shows where the competition isn't ugly. That's such a dope one.
Yeah. So let's do your number 2. What you got?
My number 3.
No, your number 3.
I want to bring in Netflix's High on the Hog.
Yes, this is your number 3?
Yes, because the other 2 I really have. I've been having so much fun with. I want to bring in High on the Hog, which is a great documentary, y'all. There's 2 seasons of it. Their whole thing is Black food is American food.
The full title of High on the Hog is High on the Hog: How African American Cuisine Transformed America.
It brings in a little bit of the historical aspect of like how the African diaspora found its way. You really kind of follow the coastlines of the Carolinas, parts of Southern Virginia, the Carolinas down into Florida. You have the islands wrapped around Florida all the way around Mississippi and Louisiana. So the Sea Islands, all of those collection of islands that are right off the coast of Charleston, you have really deep-rooted African communities. Like the cuisine, the language, the religious traditions, including how they cooked, all shifted. But by the time it found its way into that soul food restaurant you like in your favorite strip, this documentary tells you exactly where it came from.
Yeah, this documentary
is so dope.
Directly points out our cultural contribution to American cuisine.
It will blow your mind.
Like, from the point, like, Carolina Gold rice is a very particular rice, and only African or people of African descent knew how to cultivate this rice. There are vegetables and spices that are indigenous to Africa that were brought here by slaves. The seeds were woven in their hair. And if it had not been for them bringing those things in case of survival, like, we would not have them.
Yes. What's also scary, like not scary, but like it's so close if you think about Puerto Rican cuisine or like Dominican or Cuban cuisine in particular, all like Latin America, this insane infusion of West African to be specific, culinary arts and like Latin American culinary arts, like meat in these they're literally steps away from each other. Like it's so
because they
related.
all have the same origin. They all come from slaves from Africa.
Same vegetables, same ingredients, just woven slightly different. It's so crazy.
It goes to show, the documentary points out that we invented catering.
Yes.
The founding of American cuisine comes from comes from two black men, from Hercules Caesar, who was the chef of George Washington.
Oh my God, yes.
And Thomas Jefferson's cook, James Hemings.
Which they talk about in the show.
Who is the brother of the famous Sally Hemings. And we know about Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings.
Right.
But these two men were the chefs for these very prominent Americans. Now, you think of that time, there are no celebrity chefs.
Nope.
There are no real celebrities. Like, the celebrities of that time are people like George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. They're the people in America that almost everyone knows. And if everyone knows about them, you know about the dinners that happen at their house, and you hear about those menus. Yeah. And those are black men who are French-trained chefs.
Come on, speak on it, Roger.
Combining African techniques of cooking, creating American culture. We have French fries because of those chefs. We have ice cream in America because of those chefs.
If you like a good buffet.
We have buffets in America because of those chefs. We know about these that we think of as very American cuisine literally come from Africa.
Dry rub is not an American concept, a created concept, but I'm just going to leave it at that.
It's all barbecue in general is not American.
Now listen.
is a very African.
Make it plain for the people.
Hearth cooking.
Woo, child. But I will say this, and I will end this. I love this documentary series because it doesn't portray it as opinion. I love that tagline where it says, Black food is American food. It is not an I gotcha moment. It was like, you should really understand the history and the origin of what you eat all the time. And you really should. So I would recommend this documentary because it's going to help blow your mind. It's going to help you realize that this place we call America is a country of immigrants, and just like with anything else, our fashion, our technology, our cuisine, our traditions are all an amalgamation of just the ancestors and the immigrants that came over.
It just makes you connect to food. Just
it really does
differently, like in ways I didn't expect. You know what they call French fries in DC? It's a restaurant near the White House that they're called Freedom Fries.
Freedom Fries.
Yeah, this is a DC thing, a very DC specific thing, because it being the capital, we do everything so American. So having a dish that's named after another country, French fries were not it. We started calling them Freedom Fries. And then when you think about that, French fries in America are introduced by a slave. Freedom ain't got nothing to fuck to do with these fries.
Okay, all right. Top two. We are in the top two.
So we're in the top two. What's your top? Let's go. You go first.
Okay,
What's your top two?
So my first one is, oh, wait a minute, it's Food Network. So Delicious Miss Brown.
Ooh, yes.
Okay, so ever since we decided to come with this episode, I've been checking out Miss Cardia Brown.
Cartier Brown.
Sorry, Cartier. I always say it wrong because Cartier. I'm like, it's not Cartier. It is Cartier.
It is Cartier.
So Miss Cartier Brown, she's actually quite an accomplished celebrity chef, if you will. But what I really want to center on, so she's been around a long time. This show has amassed an average of 1 million viewers per episode. You need to check this out. What I love about it is that she's redefined the South Carolina kitchen. Y'all think Paula Deen, but actually, if Paula Deen had actually grew up with the culture and the traditions to make the food that she talked about. I'm not trying to be funny, but Cartier here, she really reaches into her African-American roots, specifically her Gullah Geechee roots, and she's kind of redefined what Southern, specifically South Carolinian cuisine looks like. She hails out of Charleston, South Carolina. A lot of people, at least media-wise, think Charleston is just a bunch of rich white people that live over in the coast. There's this huge, beautiful, and rich indigenous, black, brown community there, and Cartier literally showcases that. Now, it's a in-the-kitchen counter kind of presentation, but I like that because I feel like my big sister's just talking to me. Right. She gives me like...
She's good at the kitchen
gives me
counter.
Like Sherry, if Sherry Shepherd had a cooking show. Like if that gives you a kind of her style, it's very bright, it's very vibrant, it's very like your homegirl is talking to you.
And she gives you story and connection around the food.
Oh my God. And her family, like her brother on there, he's fine. I think is he a firefighter? Anyway, it's entered into its 10th season. It started out in 2019, I believe, but it's amassed a huge following, and it's one of Food Network's
Number
biggest
one
shows.
Yeah.
Like I know it's top 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it is right now, but it stays within that range since its inception.
Delicious Miss Brown hosted by Cartier Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out. Delicious Miss Brown.
And that's Food Network?
Yeah.
Food Network, and it also can be found on Hulu.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it can be found on Hulu. That's where it was. See, I'm high. It was Hulu. Thank you.
Well, I think Hulu has a partnership with Food Network, so you can.
I was going to say that earlier because you're probably right. You're probably right. All right, that's my number 2. What's your number 2?
So you have stolen my number 1 and my number 2.
Did I?
No, that's not true. You only stole my number 1. So
was Delicious Miss Brown your number 1?
No, I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So my number 2 is also hosted by Cartier Brown, but this is more of because I prefer like the competition type of show.
Ah, see.
So hosted by Cartier Brown, the Great Soul Food Cook-Off.
Yo.
It only got the 1 season, I believe, and I hope they redo the season.
Do you know if they're renewing it?
I hope it was years ago, so I'm not sure if because I think it was back in 2023 is when the show happened. So it's been a couple of years. I don't think it came out last year
because that's what started me paying attention to her.
Yeah, it was like
I did this one and then I went back to
and
her
it was
show.
the first time. So Eric Ajapong from Wild Card Kitchen is also a judge on that show.
Is that the first time we saw him?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the first time,
but
that might have been the first time I saw him.
Oh, I liked that show.
But I'm sure. But he was on a bunch of other shows before that. I know he was like on not Top Chef. He was on Iron Chef.
Yes, Iron Chef,
and
which is wild.
Yeah,
because that's not a game.
Yeah, so he's been on a lot of these competition shows. But yeah, the Great Soul Food Cook-Off. They brought the best of the best soul food chefs from
I could smell
all over the
these
country.
episodes. I'm not even trying to play with y'all.
And like the other judge is none other than Melba Wilson.
I mean, Melba Wilson. I always say that from Melba's.
From Melba's, yeah. Yes, so it was.
She's lovely.
They have
fabulous.
They have great judges. So, and they are like soul food chefs. They're high level chefs.
And can we also add in that she's also about. It's not soul food where it's heavy. It's very clean. Like she's all her practices in preparing the soul food. You still get that same. I believe I haven't tasted her food. You get that same rich taste without all the diabetic, heart disease stuff attached to it. It's not just lard and fat. She does a very good job of keeping the soul food, but we can actually eat it well into our 60s and 70s. You can still eat her food.
What is the actual definition of elevating? So I think a lot of times in like food culture, we always talk about like elevating this like Asian food or elevating like a different cultured food. And it's not elevating the food by like erasing some of the culture by
you put a sprig of mint on that. What is that?
By making it more white, by adding ingredients that are
I'm
not.
gonna add some garnish and a sprig of mint.
What it means to elevate a cuisine means you add another skill to creating the cuisine.
The S word.
You add another like cooking skill or a technique that isn't traditionally used for this thing.
Right.
And so that's what this show shows, like soul food elevated realistically.
It was really fun. Really well done.
It's so good.
I'm so sad it's only got the 1 season, but that's how I found Cartier Brown. I saw this competition show, and then I looked, she has her own. So I went back and watched it and got totally hooked. So I'm glad you brought that one in here. All right, my friend. I think we're at our top.
All right, so
hopefully I didn't take one of your other ones.
So you stole my number 1.
Sorry.
You stole my number 1.
I know, bad.
My number 1 was High on the Hog.
But I mean, come on.
I love a good. My number 1 is High on the Hog. So, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is, I wonder if you check this one out, Searching for Soul Food with Alyssa Reynolds.
This was in my honorable mention. They are like the same show for me.
Yes, I was going to say.
Except Searching for Soul Food, Alyssa is expanding the idea of the definition of soul food to not just be about Black people creating food, but about the struggle or the experience that has informed the food.
Exactly. It's like if soul food is, if soul food is to what black people in America, let's put it like that. She'll go to whatever region and look for that group. What does soul food look like or sound like to you? So, for example, she'll be in like Spain, or she'll go to like Argentina, or she'll go over to Chicago and just kind of ask the question, like, what does soul food look, feel, and sound like to you?
What is the food that connects to your soul in such a deep way? Like, it is lineage. It invokes a feeling when you eat the food.
And let's be clear, she's worked with everybody.
Everyone. She's a James Beard awardee.
Yeah, yes. We were just talking about James Beard.
She's your chef that black celebrities were like, hey,
can you? Would you mind?
Can you come to this?
When Mother O,
when Oprah call,
she done cook for Barack.
This is who Oprah go to get her chicken fried.
Okay.
That's who Elisa is.
Elisa be like, girl, can you make me a sweet potato pie real quick?
Right.
She be like, I got you.
Oh,
so that was my number one.
That was your number one.
Yeah.
All right, that was so good.
Food.
So I'm gonna give a couple of honeroable mentions.
Yes, hit us with it.
So a show that is produced by Dan Levy.
Okay.
From what's their show? Wow, I'm really
Dan
high.
Levy.
Yeah, he's got The Famous Dad.
Oh, Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek, yes. Eugene Levy's son.
Yes.
Dan Levy produced a show called The Big Brunch on Max.
Okay, tell me about this one because I haven't looked at it yet.
During the pandemic, there were all of these, the food industry was struggling, and there's all of these really innovative and special cooks that all had a mission to change the world with food. But they're also high-level cooks. They cook really well. And so he had them all together, and if they win the show, they get like $10,000 toward their cause.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
Toward this mission that they want to do, that they're trying to develop. And they're all very special chefs.
Oh,
and so
is this going to have me crying?
It will. It will.
Oh, girl. Y'all, I can't fuck with
they're
Roger.
all really great human beings.
No.
And
is this like a Humans of New York meets cooking? Because I can't.
So good.
Girl, you know I can't.
It's so good. Yeah, he has some amazing judges that are on there. It's a beautiful show. I really enjoyed it.
Give us the show one more time.
The Big Brunch.
The Big Brunch. Is
on
it
Max.
The Big Brunch with?
No, it's just called The Big Brunch.
Oh, I want to check
And it's like
out.
set Big Brunch because Dan Levy is one of the judges as well as the host. And no, I think he's just a host, but he's good friends with the judges.
Got you.
And so he knows these judges.
Okay.
He's worked with them, and it's like a nice, we're going out to brunch setting. They bring the cooks out, they give them their challenges, and then they start cooking their food, and so the judges and the hosts sit together and they have a conversation.
Oh, I like this.
And a bartender comes out and takes their drink order.
Ooh, this is cute.
And Kaya is this beautiful black woman. She's the bartender for the show and creates these amazing drinks all the time. They do these different types of drinks that people probably haven't heard of.
Oh, this sounds lovely as hell.
Yeah.
All right. I would check this out.
And so, yeah, and then they do these really great dish, and they're all brunch themed.
Oh, my God. All right, I love it.
Which we should be watching this show. It's called The Big Brunch.
I know. Okay. So sorry. We will be checking out The Big Brunch.
And so my other honorable mention is a show that I don't check out. I don't suggest you watch this full series.
I don't think you've ever said this to me.
It's called Chef's Table on Netflix.
Child.
I don't watch the entire series because there's a lot of my daddy was really rich and I got to go train at the best cooking school in the world.
Ever.
And I always
known.
wanted to cook, and everybody invested in me all the time, and it was so hard.
It's so difficult.
So I was like, I don't need to.
We're not here for that.
I don't need to watch all of this. So it was so much of that. So it doesn't.
We can't do that.
That doesn't do it for me.
No, ma'am.
But there are two specific episodes that are on this series.
Baby.
The first is in season 6. I believe it's the first episode of season 6. Mashma Bailey, and this is a black woman that has trained all over the world, and now she's come back to her hometown in Georgia, in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, wow.
To be the head chef at a restaurant and bring and she wants to bring the food of her community back, and with her French training.
Ooh.
And do fine dining of the cuisine.
Oh, I bet it's gorgeous.
Of her hometown.
Oh, I bet it's gorgeous.
And like her how she's raised and how she came up there in Savannah informs the menu.
Oh, I like that.
And so it's such a beautiful episode. And then my other episode on this series, Kwame Unwachi.
Mm-hmm.
Kwame Unwachi is the head chef for literally the number one restaurant in New York City right now. It is called Tatiana.
Baby.
This black man from the Bronx.
Okay, when we say number one restaurant, like if you want to get a booking, you book it.
You
for
have to
next
wait
year.
a year to get in there.
You're booking for next year.
You can't get
I'm
into
not even
that
playing
restaurant.
with
That's
you.
how popular this is.
You might
amazing.
be able to get in October 2026. You think I'm playing? Go for it.
Like if you want, but it's literally the number one restaurant. It is a treat. It is tucked away in Lincoln Center.
Yes, it is.
In New York City.
It's not a game.
And
so
the head chef is such a brilliant black man who brings his experience of being a resident and growing up in the Bronx and brings like bodega, corner style hood food in New York City that's uniquely New York City.
You hear what this man is saying? He's saying hood food.
And like introduces the street food culture of New York to fine dining.
Like that's a crazy marriage.
And like this
street food to fine dining.
And then this young man's experience and how he comes up and how his life happens and how all of that informs his food, and this is how he has become number one. It like that episode floored me. So I literally, after I watched the episode, I text you and I was like, watch this episode. It made me cry.
Y'all, I ain't even gonna hold y'all long. You better have your tissues ready. Because I told Roger, I watched this episode 10 minutes in.
Okay?
I'm a bubbling mess.
Boo-hooed.
Through the whole thing. It's so powerful.
It choked me up so much every time.
I'm getting a little messed up
just
right now.
thinking about it.
I can't talk about this episode. But if you want a good cry, a good cry.
When it dawns on you why Tatiana is called Tatiana, when that restaurant, when you find out who Tatiana really is, I was like,
y'all, I'm not even playing. I can't do this.
All this tissue. I was like, give me all this tissue.
But it's Chef's Table. Do you know what season that was?
Oh, that is Chef's Table's season 7, episode 2.
It was excellent. Now I'm hungry again.
I am hungry again because we really high. We really got these munchies. We is definitely about to eat something else. Okay, all right. We about to brunch again. We about to brunch.
And I ain't about to.
We about to after brunch.
Period.
What do you want to tell the people?
All right. Well, listen, I've had a good time with my boy, of course. So listen, while y'all out there, just be good or be good at it.
And I want you to know that you are enough just as you are. Mm-hmm. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.